You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers! Kerry G. Johnson is an award-winning illustrator, cartoonist, and caricature artist. Hailing from Nashville, Tennessee, Kerry's vibrant illustrations have graced numerous children's books, magazines, and websites. Known for his engaging visual storytelling, Kerry is a sought-after speaker at schools and conferences. He lives with his family in Columbia, Maryland. Please put your hands together and welcome Kerry to the show. Thank you so much, Kerry, for joining me on this episode of On the Air with Florenza. And I'm super excited to have you joining me today because you are my first illustrator that I will be chatting with. And as is my tradition, before we get started, I am going to toast to a very successful show. And as I told you offline, I have two options here in front of me by which to toast. I've got a nice little Zinfandel that I've kind of been sipping on and a big old Mason-Dixon glass of water. So I've reached for the water. So what are you drinking, if anything?
Oh, what am I drinking? Oh,
Mhm.
I'm going to drink some of the other options that you have available. Would that be
Okay,
okay?
that's perfect. So, cheers to a successful show.
Awesome. Cheers.
Now, I gave your bio and some information about you on the onset of the show.
Of course.
But go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners, giving them just an overview of who you are, and then we're going to jump right into the questions.
I appreciate that. And first, let me say thank you for having me speak to you this afternoon. And again, I'm Kerry G. Johnson. I am a professional illustrator. I'm a caricaturist. I'm a graphic designer. I'm an art director. I also instruct graphic design at schools in the Maryland area. And the reason I say that, rather than just saying, hey, I'm an artist, I do a lot of different things. I do
Yeah.
web design. I do graphic design. I do logos. I do illustrations. I do children's books. So I try to stay very focused on using my creative skills to show people that I can do a lot of different things.
You know what? That is so important. And thank you for leading in with that. When I'm in schools talking to students from the author's perspective, I always ask them which of them enjoy drawing or creating. And so many of them raise their hands. And if they're older students, one of the questions that I will caveat that with is asking them how many of them realize that they can actually earn a living, that it could subsidize their living in such a way that they can do that full time. And surprisingly, Kerry, not a lot of students know that they can actually have productive lives as artists. How important is that for children today? And more importantly, at what point did you realize that art is what you want to do?
That's a good question. And I'm gonna let you understand something too. When I was a child, I didn't see a lot of people of color being artists or illustrators or even graphic designers. But everything we do, if it's television, if it's cartoons, if it's commercials, everything we see is done by a creative person. They don't have to be illustrators like myself or be children's book authors or illustrators, but everything we do, it's the clothes we wear, it's the shows we watch, it's the outfits that the football players wear. Someone has designed those things. When I realized that I could make a living as an artist, I was in the kindergarten. I drew a cat and I won $300. And again, in the kindergarten, $300, that was
That's
fine.
$1 million.
Well, hey, listen, only thing I wanted from my mother was, hey, listen, I wanted a old school G.I. Joe set. And yeah, long story short, I got that. But she spent the rest of the money. It's okay. I mean,
Of
I didn't
course.
care. As long as I had my G.I. Joe set, piggyback off that, when I start to grow in my academic career, I start winning other contests. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. And there weren't a lot of people of color, young men like myself, drawing. I mean, I had art people in my class, but a lot of them wanted to be doctors, lawyers,
Right.
baseball players. Some even wanted to be rappers. And that was fine because I played football too. But what had happened when I first won that first award for my illustrating of a cat. Didn't make a big deal to me, but then I realized, wait a minute, s- I'm going to draw something and get paid for it. Why not do that? So that's when I really realized that I think that I could make a living as an illustrator back in elementary school.
Nice. Did your family support that decision for you, or did you find yourself swimming against the currents in order to make that happen?
I can thankfully say my family did support me because I think, not to be boastful, but my art was so much more uh, stronger than some of my classmates that I said, okay, I can do this. And I
Hmm.
would sometimes, when I was in the elementary school, I would help the teacher show someone how to draw water or how to draw a dog's face. So when you start to get accolades from things you really didn't care about, you knew you could do that. Like again, I have a whole broad range of people in my family. My sister is a professor. My brother before he passed was a drafts person. My mother and father were teachers. So that's the whole point about using those same skills to show people that you can do things beyond sports related. Nothing's wrong with sports. I play sports too, but we don't want to think that's the only way to get out of the neighborhood.
Correct. Wow, such powerful words. And for our listeners, if you work with children or if you have children or just, the little one next door, encourage the parent or the caregiver to, listen in on this recording and hear this powerful message that they can do it. And also, it highlights the importance of encouragement. It highlights the importance of support. It also highlights the importance of feeding into a child's dream. So you say you've listened to a few, at least one of my podcasts, so I'm that one that's going to ask some completely unusual questions.
I
And
get that.
yeah, I
I'm ready to
have
go.
I have a few for you, but we are going to come back to your caricatures and things like that because that is so fascinating. But if you could illustrate a children's book for any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I think I would enjoy illustrating a book about my favorite president, Barack Obama. And
Okay.
I know there's so many out there already, but I am so intrigued about his life and what he
Hmm.
did to change America. I mean, in this environment that we're dealing with right now, sometimes you have to go back and think about, well, times were better.
Yeah.
I'm not saying things are perfect now, and things are probably going to get even more difficult in a few months or few days. But I would definitely wouldn't mind doing something about Barack Obama. I've done some caricatures and illustrations for Obama for newspapers or magazines,
Uh-huh.
so I know I have the skill to do that. But Barack Obama would definitely be on the top of my list.
Nice. Great
And let me tell you
answer.
something about that. His first inauguration, I
Uh-huh.
actually attended. I drew caricatures during his first ball. And I didn't draw him or First Lady Michelle Obama, but I was actually in the room illustrating characters people were at the event.
We're going to dive into that since we're on the subject. I know that every time my husband and I go to an event where artists are set up, we're just drawn to go sit down to have our faces
That's wonderful.
drawn in these fun, um, creative ways. How fun is it for you? Because I read on your website that you actually show up and you go to events. Like people can hire you to come to these events, like family reunions or weddings or corporate events and things like that. How much fun is
You,
that?
you've done your research, and it is fun. I tell you, again, I know we keep going back from my youth, but I started illustrating caricatures in Nashville at a theme park called Opryland, and it's no longer there, but it's similar. Opryland is like a theme park, like Disneyland or Six Flags. I know
Uh-huh.
you
I am
live in
familiar with
Ohio.
Operaland. Yes.
I actually worked at Cedar Point for a minute, so that's why it's all one big cycle. So yeah, I've gone to weddings, I've gone to bar mitzvahs, I've gone to balls, I've gone to someone want to get engaged. Hey, listen, can you draw me a proposal to my fiance? So it's been all over the rampant. I've gone to camps. I've gone to on top of buildings. So I've been in balloons. So that's why as an illustrator, you can use your well as again as a caricaturist, you can
Yes.
use those skills to get all around the region to showcase your talents. And it is a talent and a task, and some of my young proteges are afraid to draw someone with a marker because they're afraid about making mistakes. But that's the whole fun about caricatures. It's going to be a distorted, funny image. So
Yes.
definitely, I know your husband said you like doing that. That's great. But if you want to draw a caricature, just sit down and just draw somebody. It'll be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. We love it. And we've noticed that on Instagram and TikTok of late that there is an artist in particular that draws the people that are sitting there and then they catch their reaction to seeing, the caricature. And it is hilarious just to witness that fun, that lightness that we don't have enough opportunities to laugh, right? And so just to hear that laughter and see the joy on people's faces when they see those images is a lot of fun. But you also are putting yourself out there because how do you deal with the situation if, the person doesn't like what you've drawn? How do you handle that?
I think that's funny. And I always tell people when I'm illustrating them, this is a cartoon image of you. I am not even drawing a self-portrait or a portrait of you.
Mm,
I'm getting your essence. If you like to golf, if you like to swim, if you like to hang out at the beach, this is what I'm doing. Because I'm gonna tell you, I've been doing this long enough to know I can get your image. Some people may say, "Whoa, you made my nose too big." Oh, can you take off 10 pounds of my illustration? This is a fun caricature.
yeah.
And I tell you, rarely do I get that anger.
Uh-huh.
If anything, I say, hey, listen, let me try another version because I've been doing this so long. And
Hmm.
that's a good thing because I'm a successful caricature artist.
Very good. That's so much fun. I love also when we started, you were talking about the different um, avenues of income, but also avenues of expression that art has taken you in these vehicles, if you will, that art has allowed you to travel. Do you have any one or three that's your favorite thing to do that art creates opportunities or an opportunity that art has created you to do?
I appreciate that question, but I'm gonna tell you because I also teach.
Hmm.
I tell my students, you've never done your favorite piece of work yet because the
Mm,
next project is right. It's in someone's mind. A lot of people who aren't artists, they may have great imaginations, but they just can't illustrate that.
yeah.
I consider myself a visual storyteller. So again, if it's a logo, if it's a pamphlet, if it's a children's book, if it's a website, that's why someone would come to Kerry G. Johnson and we would have a discussion about what is your vision, but they just don't know how to illustrate it. So I can never tell you this is my favorite piece because I haven't done my favorite
You
piece yet.
hadn't done your favorite piece.
It,
Is
it could
there
change. It could change this afternoon.
is there a favorite thing that you do artistically that is your favorite or that you enjoy the most?
I think similarly what you said. I do drawing caricatures. I don't always have to go on site to draw characters.
Hmm.
Sometimes people reach out to me. Hey, here's my boss. He's retiring next month. Can you do a caricature of him?
Nice.
Sometimes, hey, listen, my wife was celebrating our 30th anniversary. Can you draw a picture of us together? And again, they don't have to be together, but I can take images from Facebook or Instagram and put them together as an illustration. So I enjoy doing that. But again, on the shelf is still my children's books that I enjoy
Yeah.
doing. So it really depends. As long as I could take someone's idea
Uh-huh.
or their storyline and make it visually appealing, that's what I like to do.
Wonderful. Talk us through the process that you take when interviewing an author to decide if they are a good fit with you. As a children's book author, I have close to 30 titles that are published, but I also
Yeah.
write under pen names. And I know the importance of, I call them my book baby mamas and my book baby daddies because together
Okay.
we create book
Nice.
babies.
Awesome. Awesome.
But I know that just because someone is a phenomenal artist doesn't necessarily mean that they are a good fit for that project. Talk us through
Great.
how you determine which authors or which projects you take on.
That's wonderful. And so how this works for me, and again, not saying it works for everyone, but works best for Kerry. So usually people reach out to me. They find me via LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We would talk. I like to have either it's over Zoom or phone. Doesn't really matter to me because eventually we will build a relationship. And they would tell me what's their idea, what kind of books do they like, if it's about them and their grandchild, if it's them and their children, if it's them a day in life situation. That's what we would do. Generally, they would discuss it with me, then email me a manuscript. I always tell authors, potential authors, don't worry about a copyright. I'm not going to try to take your story. That's not my vision. That's such a
Right.
bad representation of people trying to scam people. I don't need to do that. I do so much other things that I'm okay. But after I look at the manuscript, I read it and I say, okay, I can do it. But I tell you right now, I actually reject more things than I take on.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, I tell the author, even though they may say they want to work with me, they like my style, that's great. But I'm confident that someone who has something that's more aligned with this storyline would work out better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something about that same concept. Like one time I illustrated this comic book. It was about this young lady, Caucasian lady. I'm an African American fellow, but I did it well. I did 6 issues. And the reason I'm saying that, you don't necessarily have to be that person if the story's strong. She was a little scientist. She had this powers of a laser. And I did 6 issues of that comic book. So the reason I'm making it as an example, I don't have to be that character if the story's strong.
Correct.
But on the same time, if I support what this author's doing, I can make it work.
Nice. I love that you said that in a time in which we are talking about own and being authentic voices and understanding lived experiences. As an artist, you have that ability, that element that allows you to transcend all of the boundaries, right? Like you can work with someone even if um English isn't their primary language. You can work through translators to get the essence of that story and to create that art. Do you find that you have a niche as far as illustrations that is your happy space, or because of your vast talent, that you're able to easily maneuver between different genres and different styles of art?
Well, I will say that I am an art director and an illustrator and a graphic designer. Many of the things I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
I do tend to work with a lot of authors of color.
Hmm.
They want to see a kinship in some of their background and my background. But I don't want you to think that I can't work with anyone. I work with everyone.
Right.
But I do have that's if you want to look at my pocket of people that really reach out to me, it's generally people of color. Now, my illustration work, my children's book work, look a lot different than my corporate level work. I
Hmm.
work at a university in the Baltimore region, and the stuff I do for that university looks nothing like my children's book. It's really straightforward. Some people may say it's boring. It's okay. It's still focused on that academic for a sign of my region of my life. However, if someone of color wants to, hey, listen, I want to work with an author or an illustrator that can tell my story of me hanging down south with my grandmother and going fishing and grandpa barbecuing out in the summer. Well, that's my life. And
Yeah.
that's why we have that same relationship. So again, if you looked at who I usually work with, it may be people of color, but again, I don't want anyone to say that I can't work with anyone.
Right. And I love that you have that academic side, that you was kind of like the what was that? The mullet. Party business in the front and party in the back.
Well, I'm gonna let you say it. I'm gonna let you pass on that one, but I will support that.
Nice. Where are the listeners able to engage with you and contact you? I do have your most of your social media and website in the information, but go ahead and tell them where they're able to connect with you.
Great. I will always say you can always find me online. It's Kerry G Johnson, and that's Kerry. Make sure you use my initial, Kerry G Johnson, and it's pretty simple. Caricature Kerry. That's me on Instagram, on X, on Blue Sky, and Threads. So I had to keep them track. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Kerry G Johnson.
Nice. we've come to the part of our show that I call One for the Road.
Okay.
And in keeping with our theme of art and illustrations and caricatures and such, I've created a few questions for you that are this or that. And so you select whichever one that resonates with you the most, and it could be neither, or it can be both, right?
Okay.
Or you
Let's
can
see.
throw in your own answer.
I'm gonna gamble and see what you got going on here.
Okay, digital illustrations or traditional hand drawn sketches?
Hey, I gotta go digital. I mean, I'm gonna tell you something. As someone who works as a consultant, I deal with so many clients from around the world.
Uh huh.
I appreciate caricatures because I can do them on site. I do it all
Yeah.
the time. However, that's limiting my growth as an artist, and that's why I
Yes.
tell my students, yeah, that's great that you can draw, but can you draw something for somebody in Los Angeles? Can you draw something in Salt Lake City?
Correct.
So I am a proponent for digital art. I actually draw more digital work than do traditional work. So I definitely support digital illustration.
Nice. Well, that leads us into this one. Illustrating for children's books or creating caricatures at live events.
Children's books. It's not even close. I mean, I am thankful I can draw caricatures,
Uh-huh.
but getting to the destination, setting up, sometimes it goes into the wee hours of the night. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it and it's
Uh-huh.
fun, but I can come to my home studio where we are now and just draw a children's book takes much less time or effort.
Nice. Bold, vibrant colors or subtle, muted tones.
That's again, you come up with some wonderful questions. Now, let me just compare to this. If I'm doing my children's book,
Uh-huh.
vibrant, powerful
Yes.
colors,
Uh-huh.
like just think about, I know Sonic's out now, the colors in Sonic the movie, the
Yes.
video games. But again, those vibrant colors will not work for my academic work.
True.
So you gotta learn how to separate.
You got to learn. Creating characters inspired by real people or purely imaginary creatures.
I prefer imaginary creatures, but it's so funny because I started drawing, Mickey Mouse, Spider-Man, the Hulk, the Avengers. That's where I started, but I get it. But if you look on the internet, and I support the internet, of course we do.
Uh-huh.
Everybody draws the Hulk. Everyone draws
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Everyone draws
Yeah.
Batman. And I
Yeah.
appreciate all their creativity. But I want to draw the baseball coach.
Yeah.
I want to draw the teacher of the year because
Yeah.
you know why? That's them. They will hang this up on their den or in the classroom, and they will appreciate that. So again, I love drawing caricatures because people will keep them and say, "Wow, this artist drew me. He really got my essence." So definitely, I prefer to do it that direction.
Nice. And then our last one, working solo in your studio or collaborating with other creators or creatives.
I don't mind collaborating when I'm doing a book project. Uh, I think it's fine because you need to get that sense of the storyline and you want to showcase that. But I don't need someone looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes trying to
Uh-huh.
art direct or hey, I don't like her hair color or I don't like this color of his eyes. So I'm gonna give that a midpoint question
Okay.
because you know why? Sometimes when I'm doing art directing, I'm the one getting feedback.
You're the one doing it. Has there been a time for you where you created a piece of art and it pained you to watch it go away, that you were just like, no, wait, I want it back?
I like that question, and I think maybe this is the art director to me. No, no,
Good.
because I think I appreciate creativity, but that's why God has blessed me with these talents.
Yeah.
When I draw something, and someone either pays me for it or they want to hang it up on the wall, I'm flattered, I'm
Yeah.
honored, and as you mentioned, the artist that you talked about. I wouldn't care who took it. I
Yeah.
mean, it could have been a homeless gentleman. It could have
Yeah.
been some high school student waiting to get on the bus. It's the fact that if I want to draw something else, well, guess what? They took it. I can draw something else,
Yeah.
and that's why I don't really uh, think that when I draw things that I need to hold on to it. One of the most flattering things I've ever done, or some things I've done several times. I've done some shirts and design work, and then I walk down the street, I see someone with some of my design work, or see someone reading the
Oh,
books I've illustrated, or go into a bookstore and see, oh, I worked on that project. That's what I want to have happen to me, because again, like I told you earlier, I haven't yet to do my favorite piece because I'm gonna work on some. I'm literally gonna work on something later this afternoon.
Yeah.
So I think it's flattering, and I'm actually honored if someone takes my artwork. If I said it was free and they took it, God bless them. That they probably have
Yeah.
a wonderful opportunity to look at it every day.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Kerry, for joining me. This has been so much fun.
I've enjoyed connecting with you, and especially since you're from my old stomping grounds, so I know that area of the region very well. So that's so fun.
Yes. Go Buckeyes.
Yes, they're gonna do something. Let's hope they do. Let's cross fingers. Let's see.
Yes, they had better.
Yeah, yeah.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time.